Yep. Night and day compared to the maiden, and it's windier.
We've got to hold off a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Brakes are really sweet. I might retrieve it from there just so we don't suck grasshoppers up it.
G'day guys, Mickey here from Mickey BRC. Welcome back to the channel, and if it's the first time joining us, hello to you. So recently I uploaded 3 videos on the HSD ME-262. We did an unboxing, a build, and then a maiden flight. And since then, Yoda has been doing some more flights. I was able to head out to the field and capture some of that, and also some of his insights into the model itself. A few things you need to know, or at least think about when you're getting into this model. It's fine out of the box, it'll fly okay. But can you make it better? Of course you can. And Yoda put his Midas touch on the model and it just flew exceptionally well. And that's what we would have seen from those previous flights. So with the magic of editing, I got a list here. So the first cab off the rank is the center of gravity. The book recommends 145 to 150 millimeters at the wing root aft. We don't suggest you go there. Start from 140 and then work your way around there. We found it best at 140 and it balanced perfectly. Also at that placement, we were able to shift around the weight of the batteries right up the nose. I think he was able to get at least 10 mils back from that very, very forward position. So again, 140 mils, so that's 5 millimeters ahead than the forwardmost position recommended in the manual. To achieve the 140, you can play around with moving the batteries as forward as you can get and the receiver packs as forward as you can get, or you can move the EDFs. And that's exactly what Yoda did. He's moved the EDFs from their factory position forward 85 millimeters. In terms of how to go about doing that, basically all that Yoda did was take the existing position, the mounts where the EDF mounts to, remove that from the foam, cut the hatch longer so it can accommodate the 85 millimeters you need to bring those EDFs up. And it's right behind the cheetah hole. And also an added benefit from that is that you're getting nice clean air from that cheetah hole. So the landing gear are actually dampened, which is kind of unique, but the only issue with that is the nose wheel, it doesn't retract properly. It's slow to sort of absorb the shocks from like bumpy surfaces. The issue with that is the nose kicks up really easily and it could potentially force you to rotate the aircraft probably long before you should have. So to stop the nose kicking up, we would recommend taking the strut apart, removing the grease and just using the spring that's inside to dampen it. That way you're getting the struts extending quickly and retracting quickly as it should, as it's absorbing bumps and shocks on the ground as you're doing your landing or your takeoff. So we found that quite important. It is unique, like I said, because it's like a hydraulically dampened kind of setup, but it's just a little bit too stiff. The main gears are fine, you can leave them, but the nose wheel definitely, you don't want that kicking up too early. Now the linkages. From factory they've set up so on the servo horn, the linkages are on the most outer hole, so furthest away from center. There's probably a couple of things you should think about when doing this. You want the full travel of the servo, but not all that throw in the control surface itself. So what are the settings that Yoda did for his one? Ailerons. He's moved the linkage to the most center hole of the servo horn, so it's the one closest to center. The elevator, he's moved them one hole towards the center, so just one hole up. And for rudder, he's moved them in one again. This will allow you to have full throw of the servo. So if you are running a gyro and there's such little throw in it, like we had to do in its first flight, you're not going to get, the gyro is just not going to work properly. It's got such little movement to work with. So you want the full travel of the servo. And it's good for the servo too, to get that full range. So something to think about for your linkage placements. So another modification that Yoda did was create a hard point in the battery bay for connecting your batteries. Such a simple idea. Cutting out from the battery bay and just gluing in the connectors. You're able to remove some of that wiring so it's tidy. Cable management, it's got tons of room, so there should be optimal cable management in this thing. Get it nice and tidy, and that's a really good, easy way to do it. So remember that, the hard points for the battery connectors. Yoda made a really good point about when you receive your model, what you should consider doing as you're assembling.
Foamies, everyone needs to be well aware that when you get them, they sat in the box, they've had pressure on them in different ways, hot, cold.
Yep.
They come out of the mould straight, but they might get to you with a little twist, because the glues they use with the spars, when they're putting the wings together, it has a little bit of movement in it.
Right.
So when you get them, it's a good idea to twist. We didn't think of that. It's been a while since I put a foamy together. And if you just give everything a little twist without marking it, but just enough to really twist and pop it, it'll find its way back into the mould. Right. And you'll probably have a better flying experience when you first go and fly it.
That's a really good tip. Couple of things to note when you're flying it. The EDFs are spinning in the same direction, so you are going to get a torque moment there. It's not huge, but it's definitely noticeable, especially on the ground. So if you're used to warbirds and being active on that rudder, you should have no trouble with this. Just be aware of it. The other thing to consider is when it's flying and you're in the turn, it'll want to tuck its nose towards the turn, so it'll drop. There's obviously a couple of things you could do with it. You can set a rudder to aileron mix, or you can set a negative differential in the aileron and just provide drag on the outer wing during your bank, and that'll just kick the nose up a bit. So it's a small thing, but slipping an aircraft, it's uncoordinated. So that's another thing you may want to consider. Obviously, try your model out first and see if it has the same sort of thing. If it does, 2 easy fixes. Final thoughts, out of the box, it's a cool looking model. It has a really good finish and some really cool components with it, like the control board, the brakes, the gear assembly, nice tough gear assembly. And it's a twin 90mm. It's a big jet, just over 1800 millimeters. So it's not a small jet. That's both on the ground and in the air. It looks big in the air too. It has a lot of presence. It's very cool. Of course, my favorite part is the howl that it makes. I've never heard an RC model quite like it. And again, if you want to recreate that, it's when you're coming off power. I was egging Yoda on during the last few flights, and that's why you can hear a lot more of it. And it just puts a huge smile on my face. It's such a cool, unique noise. I think that'll about wrap it up. Consider doing these modifications and these enhancements while you're building your aircraft. Obviously, you can test fly it first and see how you like it. But these are our recommendations. Is it a good model? Yes. But with these changes, it just makes it so much more easier to fly. Speaking of which, it's not a beginner's aircraft by any stretch. It's an intermediate to expert, probably in the middle of that, and setup is key. Make sure you spend the time to set it up properly and you'll get a much better experience. Anyway guys, that's it from me. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future videos. Happy flying, and we'll see you next time.